My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I want to speak a little bit about the Duluth Model. The Duluth Model, or the Domestic Abuse Intervention Project, which was actually developed in Duluth, Minnesota, hence its name. The program was developed by Ella Spence, and it was a program that was developed and designed to help reduce domestic violence against women. The Duluth Model was the most common, what they would call batterer intervention program used in the entire United States. It's used in every 50 states, and it's even used overseas in about 17 countries, I believe. However, critics argue that the method can be very ineffective as it was developed without minority communities in mind, and it can fail to address root psychological or emotional causes of abuse, in addition to completely neglecting male victims and female perpetrators of abuse. So the underlying theory behind this is that basically, when you come right down to what the underlying theory behind it is, that men are perpetrators, men are abusers, men are violent, and women are victims. Women are never the ones who abuse, men are perpetrators, and women are victims. So the Domestic Abuse Intervention Program was the first multidisciplinary program to address the issue of domestic abuse. Now, this was an experimental program, and it was conducted in Duluth, Minnesota in 1981. It was coordinated with the actions of various agencies that dealt with domestic conflict. The curriculum was developed with a small group of activists in the battered women's movement, with 5 battered women and 4 men as subjects. So it's not really a large study. There's just a few people by the looks of things, from what I understand. However, the program has become the model for programs in other jurisdictions seeking to deal more effectively with domestic violence. So you could see with this widespread model, one would think that it's got to be a very credible model. It's got to be something that works. But let's look a little bit further. Underlying the Duluth Model is the feminist theory that states that men use violence within relationships to exercise power and control. That is it. There's not altruism. Men use violence within relationships to exercise power and control. Men are evil. Men are perpetrators. Women are the victims. This is illustrated by the power control wheel, which is a graphic that was displayed, a poster that is typically available in the participating locations. So in this domestic violence, physical violence, sexual violence, this wheel of control, at the very center you have power and control. And how is power and control gained by men? Well, they use intimidation. They make her afraid by using looks, actions, gestures, by smashing things, by destroying her property, by abusing pets, by displaying weapons. So he uses intimidation. The second thing is he uses emotional abuse. He puts her down. He makes her feel bad about herself. He calls her names. She makes her think that she's crazy. He plays mind games with her. He humiliates her. He makes her feel guilty. So this is, after using intimidation, there's also the emotional abuse. He also uses isolation, controlling what she does, who she sees and talks to, what she reads, and where she goes. He limits her outside involvement, and he uses jealousy to justify his actions. The fourth way that he exercises power and control is by minimizing, denying, and blaming. Making light of the abuse is not taking her concerns about it seriously. He just says the abuse didn't happen, never happened, shifts responsibility for the abusive behavior, and says that she caused the abuse. And remember, power and control are in the middle, and dominating this power and control is the idea of violence, either physical violence or sexual violence. Number 5 is that he uses children. He makes her feel guilty about the children. He uses children to relay messages to her. He uses visitation to harass her. He threatens to take the children away. Again, power and control, this is the dominating theory behind the men, done by feminist activist women. Number 6, he uses male privilege. He treats her like a servant. He's the one who makes all of the big decisions. He acts like he's master of his castle. He is the one to define what a man's roles and a woman's roles are. So the 7th aspect of this power and control wheel is he uses economic abuse. He prevents her from getting or keeping a job. He makes her ask for money. He gives her an allowance. He takes her money. He does not let her know about or have access to the family income. And number 8 is that he uses coercion and threats. He makes or carries out threats to do something to hurt her. He threatens to leave her. He threatens to commit suicide. He threatens to report her to the welfare. He uses coercion by trying to get her to drop charges against him. He makes her do illegal things. So again, these are eight aspects of power and control. He uses intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation. He minimizes, denies, or blames, uses children. He uses male privilege. He uses economic abuse, and he uses coercion and threats. Now, like anything, there is an element of truth to this with some relationships. I think we've all seen some relationships in which these things are evident. If not all of them, at least part of them. However, what the domestic abuse intervention program does, the underlying theory behind that, the underlying theory behind the Duluth model, is that this defines all men. Not merely the aberrant men, but all men. All men are violent and want to use power and physical violence and sexual violence to gain control and to keep control and to have things running just around them with themselves in the center and their power and control consolidated, and all women are victims. This is the model that goes forth and is taught in every one of the 50 states of the United States of America when it comes down to intervention programs. And this often is what the legal profession is steeped in. Judges, family court judges, police officers, even the military is using this. This has now been also exported to other countries that are willing to take this model. So again, it was a feminist theory that undergirded the entire Duluth model, that men use violence within relationships to exercise power and control. And according to the model, women and children are vulnerable to violence because of their unequal social, economic, and political status in society. So notice again this feminist part that comes into play here. Men and women are unequal. Men are more privileged and have a leg up on them socially, economically, and politically. This is unacceptable. Because of this unacceptability, men want to keep that status. They want to exercise and keep control of their privileged class by exercising power and control through those 8 different means that were mentioned. And the program's philosophy is intended to help batterers work to change their attitudes. And of course, batterers are always men. Never a woman. It's always a man. A man is the batterer. A man is the perpetrator. The woman is the victim. All the time, without exception. The program's philosophy is intended to help batterers work to change their attitudes and personal behavior so that they would learn to be nonviolent in any relationship. And I will say again that there is an element of truth to some of these things, but as in most things, once the element of truth becomes the entire truth, the whole truth, it leads to very bad results. And I'll continue this in the next video. Thank you.